Chapter 9. And from deep in the dry earth a lost voice whispered, "Mound's shroud." Out of the darkness something rolled, rushed, flapped. A long strip of mummy cloth snapped into the sunlight. It was as if the very tomb itself had struck out its old dry tongue, which lay at their feet. The boys stared. The linen strip was hundreds of yards long and might, if they wished, lead them down into the mysterious deeps below the Egyptian earth. Tom Skelton, trembling, put one toe out to touch the yellow linen strip. A wind blew from the tombs, saying, "Yes." "Here I go," said Tom, and balancing on the tightrope of linen, he wandered down and vanished into the dark under the burial chambers. "Yes," whispered the wind coming up from below. "All of you, come next, and another, quick." The boys raced down the linen path in darkness. "Watch for murder, boys, murder!" The pillars on both sides of the rushing boys flashed to life. Pictures shivered and moved. The golden sun was on every pillar. But it was a sun with arms and legs bound tight with mummy wrappings. Murder! A dark creature struck the sun one dreadful blow. The sun died. Its fires went out. The boys ran blind in darkness. "Yeah," thought Tom, running. "Sure, I think every night the sun dies. Going to sleep, I wonder, will it come back? Tomorrow morning, will it still be dead?" The boys ran. On new pillars, dead ahead, the sun appeared again, burning out of eclipse. "Swell, thought Tom. "That's it, sunrise." But just as quickly the sun was murdered again. On each pillar they raced by, the sun died in autumn and was buried in cold winter. "Middle of December," thought Tom. "I often think the sun will never come back. Winter will go on forever. This time the sun is really dead." But as the boys slowed at the end of the long corridor, the sun was reborn. Spring arrived with golden horns. Light filled the corridor with pure fire. The strange god stood burning on every wall, his face a grand fire of triumph wrapped in golden ribbons. "Why, heck, I know who that is," panted Henry Hank. "Saw him in a movie once with terrible Egyptian mummies." "Osiris," said Tom. "Yes," hissed Mound Shroud's voice from the deep tombs. "Lesson number 1 about Halloween. Osiris, son of the earth and sky, killed each night by his brother Darkness. Osiris, slain by autumn, murdered by his own night blood. So it goes in every country, boys. Each has its own death festival, having to do with seasons. Skulls, bones, boys, skeletons, and ghosts. In Egypt, lads, see the death of Osiris, king of the dead. Gaze long." The boys gazed. For they had come to a vast hole in the underground cavern, and thought this hole they could look out on an Egyptian village where at dusk food was being placed out in pottery and copper dishes on porches and sills. For the homecoming ghosts," whispered Mound Shroud somewhere in the shadows. Rows of oil lamps were nailed to house fronts, and the soft smoke from these rose up on the twilight air like wandering spirits. You could almost see the haunts shifting along the cobbled streets. The shadows leaned away from the lost sun in the west and tried to enter the houses. But the warm food, steaming on the porches, kept the shadows circling and stirring. A faint smell of incense and mummy dust wafted up to the boys, who looked out upon the ancient Halloween and the treats being set forth not for wandering boys, but homeless ghosts. "Hey," whispered all the boys. "Do not lose your way in the dark," voices sang in the houses to harps and lutes. "Oh, dear sweet dead, come home and welcome here. Lost in the dark, but always dear. Do not wander, do not roam. Dear ones, come home, come home." Smoke curled from the dim lamps, and the shadows stepped up on the porches and, very gently, touched the gifts of food. And in one house they could see an old grandfather mummy being taken out of a closet and put in a place of honor at the head of the table, with food set before him. And the members of the family sat down to their evening meal and lifted their glasses and drank to the dead, one seated there, all dust and dry silence.